Okay, welcome to another podcast. Stealth Mary, steal everything. And we're going to be going over today's latest features of society and growth. So in terms of Miriam's skinny stuff all the way to living a long time, we're going to try and go over today's society and social awareness.
SeaWorld,
And broaden that horizon. The 5 points of growth are vegan, leg, arm, neck, arm,
back.
And so when you're first growing, your 5 distinguished portions grow separately. From there, your very first fat, or your very first maneuver, shall go towards the 5 intervals. From there, you shall be able to use brand new noggin and eyes. And when it comes to the equation of digesting food, which old folks have a hard time doing, you should be able to digest food as if you're storing your memory up and over after you get there. Doing simple acts would store memory, press plus disposition, and it would be as if you were storing your memory in air. For instance, your memory as growth goes up and over to different channels, and you would store your memory as air. And from the preposition of your first maneuver to the first 5 intervals of where you're growing, you shall use as if you were a adolescent, ad plus less placent mode, in a pre-adolescent mode, and therefore when you digest food or start using your memory, you shall grow as if you were digesting your food, as if you were in the air, as if your memory were being stored in air. But you're starting over from new, and you don't want to forget that part. From there, the first fat, Philippines fat, Moses, then fat, then West Africa, we're going to be into the game of stealing everything, Isaiah 6, 7, and 8, and robbing our neighbors. We perceive that a black and white fish is robbed in unison to the Hindu tribes of the Bible being robbed, and one example is when they're coming out of Egypt, they threw the trees in the water, they became fat. Before that, Pharaoh Joseph, which means bird, was around when Laban became skinny. They had the trees in the water. They did not throw the trees in the water. Laban, which means white, became skinny. They're then having sex with his daughters. So we know we have 2 tribes in India because they were robbed, and yet bird is around. And we want to make this clear that we are adversaries. We are friends. We are friends with white. And so when it comes to the bird and stuff getting around and stuff being robbed, and you asking your neighbor and the right sources to ask and the right things to look for, there are going to be 2 variations of bird. One of them is that anything that is unsafe may actually be duplicated and given to higher sources than ourselves, which is going to whites. Or that birds may be around when bird and one other car or vehicle are instigating death. And that's Daniel chapter 9. So you want to be aware of that. But in one sense, we are friends and allies to birds and to whites. Okay, so what you want to know, basically, is you're going to want your electron set. Isaiah 5, 6, 7, and 8. Reach in with arm, reach in with other arm, and steal. And of course, when you hold your breath as a child, you're going to get staticky fingers. You're going to use 1 electric from that staticky bomb. And that 1 electron is going to look for inner visionary, which is going to debunk Miriam's, but you're going to stick with this electric. For example, that electric idea, which helps stem growth, is going to be there when you're under attack. And when you're under attack, you want to rely on your previous memories where you have actually scored a win. The majority of the time, for one of our social understandings today, is that when the people fail out there, even if there's great authorities in the Bible, bone marrow is going to warp 0 or produce flesh, that when they fail, the bone marrow is going to warp 0. And not only did they fail once, but they failed twice, and their friends failed. And after a failure of 2 times, you're looking at either 2 gases, which produce vertebrae for yourself, time frames and overlapping of time would produce a gas in which we get over different ailments. And these gases are important because they actually stem vertebral growth. So if they fail, they're emitting some kind of gas, but in like manner, we are both emitting basically a vertebrae building assessment. The second part is fat, as in Moses, Caleb, and Ephraim fat. and you're still looking for a realm right after they fail not once but twice with fat. Where you're relying on your old memories, by this point you can store up to 5 different attackers or attack modes, and you can store up to 5 different senti-odored fats after they failed not once but twice. From there, you're still going to use those electrics and the staticky electric and 1 electric to just absorb your last memory where you were winning, or you'll be nonchalant and you won't realize it, but after they fell twice the previous day, the next day you were busy doing stuff and you didn't even realize they existed. And so you're still relying on that fat source and that memory source plus those electrons to kick in. The other people still can't fail currently. We're going to be bringing those electrons up with the 5 interval portions, and you're going to be storing those. You're going to be grouping those portions together. Okay, and to the 5
Prayer before conceptions.
to 5 areas of growth that
Debo.
very first fat should lock into that, and they used to help skinnies do also. And so with your first maneuver, you're dealing with your first fat. Cosmos of fat, very interesting, but one realization of fat is that bone marrows, we want you here, ANRs are going to repeat, they want me here, as in live
Prayer.
will secrete it like a little bone marrow portion and will absorb every kind of fat. And the indications are that it is every kind of fat is a variety of fat, something you're going to want to hold on to. Because as the people were failing not once but twice, you had the capabilities of storing different predispositions and engagements against your own soul and remembering them after they failed not once but twice and left either a gaseous or a fat intake, which you will remember tomorrow and use those electrons that we're talking about just to consume that fat. From there, our 5 interval areas of growth are going to be in combination with your very first maneuver. And, of course, they're going to lock into those 5 areas. From there, we're looking at brand new tissue, brand new flesh, brand new electromagnetic tissue, brand new aura. And you're going to be using that brand new stuff, and you're going to have eyes, and you are going to have a little noggin. And therefore, if you digest food, it's as if you're storing memory up and over, or going into the air and realizing that we're a part of several memory portions, including air memory. You're going to want to hold on to air memory because it's coming up now. This is the stuff that you steal, you rob your neighbors, you look over and say, we found you, and we're just going to rob them for everything that they have. From there, you're going to try and use your very brand new memories instead over the areas that seem brand new, which can digest food. Old folks have a hard time digesting food. You're used to not touching old and new by the New Testament.
We do not.
Bone marrow is going to warp 0. Good and evil can't
Middle of the garden.
touch while growing it.
We do not.
People are being stunned who are doing negative deeds. You can do a good deed, be right next to the soul and see where they're sprouting up together. And that is going to disorganize their membrane. Some of them are passing out on the other ends. Then the recognition of the study of electric, which most fat people who study electric know that electric, by way of a staticky bomb and 1 electron, will follow in a visionary. We think it's connected to the Aurora Lights North Pole, and we think the birds are connected to the division of the same source of information, not only in India coming out of Egypt, but also over here with black and white fish being robbed in Isaiah 6, 7, and 8. They're also getting India being robbed when they come out of Egypt, and Pharaoh Joseph is born. When they came out of Egypt, they threw the trees in water, becoming fat. And Pharaoh Joseph was just born white, became skinny. They had the trees by the water. They did not throw the trees in water, so evidently they had the capability of having 2 tribes in India. And so the division of those kinds of ideas we think is relative to why the bird feels like he's a parasitical host sometimes, and he really is. And there's various forms of descriptions of birds in the Bible. From there, you would say that your functioning portions and electrons are almost the same but are divided. Therefore, your electrical volts, which can harness the capabilities of all your functioning features by 1 electron, which will then scurry, try and rebuild organs, look for their up and over organ path, and would rebuild organs normally. You're also dividing that one electron from normal functioning tissue, which happen to have a double set, so they go together if you divide them. When you divide them, they still go together, your one electron. And your one idea is simply from a static heat bomb, which is many electrons, and taking that one electron and following certain patterns like first intervisionary baby growths gets you from point A to point B, and then you divide that electron from other fleshly parts by practicing a little bit, and then you see that you can connect those two parts. You're going to be using that for the very new 5 growing ports or 5 dispositioning growing ports, from which your very first maneuver, your act, which is usually fat, would go and lock into those first 5. You don't want to overlap is something that societies know about, and that's why we're trying to give away a few details, is that by the time you overlap those first 5, you're already going to overlap while growing. That seems to be very, very fundamental and very, very important, actually, to today's society and looking over and stealing everything from their neighbors.
Isaiah 5, 6, 7, and 8.
So at that point of your 5 dispositions and your maneuver going to lock into those 5 dispositions, and then you see
Isaiah 5.
to utilize what seem to be electromagnetic body parts as if they're brand new, but they're over there. You're almost looking at yourself, and it seems to be a Shelley idea. What are we missing? Keep using that first part, plus get into the air memory, which is going to come from your gut. And the deep bowels portion of air memory seem to almost stem from our electromagnetic proportion from baby growth, of our original baby growth. It seems to do that, and it seems to want to go hand in hand with our other electric understanding from a static bomb to one electric in the following of brand new growth or intervisionary. Intervisionary and electric simply at this point go together and would be a very exclusive study for today's time frame, including atmospherical changes, in which you'll see one Japanese artist or scientist follow electric into the atmosphere. No longer does the electric bolts go down into the earth.
Burmese triangle.
Studies and progressive studies seem to even off at and to merge together seems to be from the intermediary agent, knees in reverse bird.
Stealth Mary.
And we walk like a tree. It seems to be that way in the Bible, and so the bird seems to be around.
Our llamas have no humps.
So you want to make sure that you have all the information intact, and that we are allies to all white.
Stealth bomber.
We're allies to certain birds, but not every bird could we be an ally with. But we are friends with birds on a totality range. Okay, and so if this progressions work, we'll keep you guys in tune. Remember, fig tree also means tooth, and the budding of the fig tree could mean the budding of brand new teeth. Until next time, rob your neighbors. Over and out.
Zero. Stealth Mary. Hey, you know black people after Christmas. Hey, you know black people after Christmas. Taking down the Christmas tree.